The boy kicked over his grandmother's plate with one kick, then urinated on the only pair of shoes she had, and secretly threw them into the chimney. With no shoes to wear, the grandmother could only walk barefoot on the mountain road full of sharp stones while carrying water and cooking. When she came back, she also saw the words her grandson had written on the wall insulting her. The grandmother did not get angry. She silently endured all of her grandson's resentment toward her. That night, under the dim light, the grandmother still could not thread the needle. Xiao Yu, who was beside her, immediately laughed in gloating delight. It was then that she noticed the silver hairpin on her grandmother's head and thought it could probably be exchanged for money to buy batteries. So while the grandmother was taking a nap at noon, she secretly pulled off the silver hairpin the old woman used to tie up her hair. But none of the small shops here had the button batteries that fit her game console. Helpless, she could only use the hairpin to trade for snacks, but the shop owner recognized it as the grandmother's jewelry and directly drove her out. Xiao Yu walked home in disappointment, but as she walked, she discovered that she had gotten lost. On the unfamiliar country road, Xiao Yu cried helplessly. Fortunately, an old man found her and happened to know the grandmother, so he kindly sent Xiao Yu back home. When she returned to the village entrance, she happened to see her grandmother anxiously searching for her. After seeing that she was safe and sound, the grandmother finally relaxed. Xiao Yu, because she had stolen something, did not dare face her grandmother and silently lowered her head. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe. He also vividly imitated the crowing of a chicken and the flapping of wings. The grandmother did not know what fried chicken was. She only knew that her grandson wanted to eat chicken, so she took the dried vegetables she had worked hard to save and prepared to go to the county town to sell them so she could buy chicken for him. Xiao Yu watched with a smiling face as the grandmother went out, thinking that the old woman was actually quite good to her. As long as she wanted to eat something, the grandmother would go down the mountain to buy it. Therefore, she decided to forgive her grandmother for not giving her money, erased the insulting words she had written on the wall, and then fell asleep full of expectation. But she did not know that heavy rain had already begun outside. The grandmother, who was returning after buying chicken, was struggling to walk through the muddy wet road. No one knew how long it took before the grandmother, soaked from head to toe, finally returned home. But she did not change clothes first. Instead, worried that her grandson would catch cold, she brought a quilt to cover her, then went into the kitchen and began to busy herself. However, when Xiao Yu woke up and saw that it was not fried chicken but boiled chicken, she immediately threw a loud tantrum. The grandmother did not understand why her grandson was angry. She could only sadly put the rice back into the bowl, even picking up every grain that had scattered. Late at night, Xiao Yu, who had not eaten dinner, woke up hungry. She lifted the pot lid and saw that the whole chicken was still there, so driven by hunger, she had no choice but to eat it. Unexpectedly, the chicken cooked by the grandmother tasted even better than KFC. She immediately wolfed it down. At that moment, she realized how willful and ignorant her behavior had been. The next day, the grandmother did not get up early as usual. When Xiao Yu came into her room to check, she discovered that the grandmother had become sick because of being drenched in the rain. Seeing the weak old woman lying in bed, Xiao Yu's guilt instantly reached its peak, so she took the initiative to care for her grandmother. She covered the grandmother with her own quilt, then placed a wet towel on her forehead, then quietly put the stolen hairpin back in place. Finally, she reheated the unfinished chicken and awkwardly brought it in front of her grandmother. After the grandmother recovered, the relationship between grandmother and grandchild began to grow close. Xiao Yu would pull a pumpkin cart with her grandmother to the county market. But while looking for a stall, she saw Xiao Hui, the girl from the same village, wearing new clothes. Under the influence of strong pride and vanity, she suddenly felt embarrassed to be selling vegetables with her grandmother, so she hid far away. Even when she saw that her grandmother could not attract customers because she could not speak, she still did not step forward to help. But after selling the vegetables, the grandmother immediately took her to a shoe store and bought her a new pair of shoes, then took her to eat noodles with bean sauce, while she herself silently watched from the side. Because in the grandmother's world, the most important person was her grandchild. Because she discovered that today's money from selling vegetables had almost all been spent, and all of it had been spent on her. When they passed by a store, she did not mention buying batteries for the game console. While waiting for the bus at the station, the grandmother asked if there was anything else her grandson wanted to eat. Xiao Yu saw other children eating chocolate pies, so she said she wanted some too. To make sure she would not buy the wrong thing, the grandmother picked up a discarded wrapper from the ground, then went to a small shop run by a friend. The friend was very happy to see her. Not only did he pack a whole bag of chocolate pies, he also refused to take money. Feeling embarrassed, the grandmother gave him the remaining dried vegetables as a return gift. Before leaving, the friend especially told the grandmother to come visit when she had time, because at their age, each meeting might perhaps be one less in the future. Xiao Yu met Xiao Hui on the bus. She wanted to talk to her, but it just sat in the middle and blocked her. At this moment, the grandmother had just returned from buying things. Xiaoyu was afraid Xiaohui would dislike her if she saw the grandmother, so she immediately went forward, took the things, and told the grandmother to take the next bus. The grandmother wanted her to bring back the bundle she carried, but Xiaoyu directly pushed it away. However, after the bus arrived at the stop, Xiaoyu began to worry about the grandmother again. She waited under the bus sign for one bus after another, but never saw that familiar figure. Only in the evening glow did she finally see the grandmother's silhouette. It turned out that in order to save bus fare, the grandmother had walked back from the county town with a cane. Seeing the grandmother's bent and exhausted figure, Xiaoyu could no longer control herself and ran over. But when the words reached her lips, they came out as questioning. Xiaoyu's questioning seemed like blame, but in truth it was worry and fear. And this is also a common awkward way of expressing love in family relationships. To express her apology and concern, Xiaoyu secretly stuffed the remaining chocolate pies into the grandmother's bag. This was also a child's way of showing love. As the days passed one by one, Xiaoyu gradually became used to village life. One day she wanted to go play with Xiaohui, so she asked the grandmother to cut her hair prettier, and especially gestured to trim only a little bit of bangs. But the grandmother misunderstood and thought it meant to leave only a little bit. After seeing the child nod in confirmation, she cut with confidence. Very soon Xiaoyu fell asleep in the breeze. When she woke up and saw her new hairstyle, she instantly collapsed. Helpless, she could only wrap a cloth around her head, then dragged her toys to find Xiaohui to play. On the road, she discovered that the game console had also been stuffed inside by the grandmother, but a powerless game console could not be played, so she casually stuffed it into her pocket. Until evening, Xiaoyu happily walked home carrying a doll given by Xiaohui. While passing a downhill slope, she became playful and sat on a handcart to slide downhill. As a result, she fell hard and injured her knee. Limping home, she thought of the game console in her pocket and worried it had been crushed. But when she opened it, she found 2 bills wrapped inside. Clearly, this was money the grandmother had saved by scrimping on food and expenses for batteries. At this moment, all of Xiaoyu's grievance, guilt, and emotion turned into tears of collapse. She remembered everything the grandmother had done for her. She remembered how the grandmother accompanied her to the toilet late at night, remembered how she bought chicken for her in the rain, and remembered how her own selfishness had made the grandmother go barefoot up the mountain carrying water and cooking. Crying, she slowly walked toward home. When she saw the grandmother anxiously waiting outside, the grandmother painfully came to her side, checked the wound on her knee, and gently wiped the tears and mud from her face with rough hands. This time Xiaoyu did not avoid her, but the next second, the grandmother took out a letter sent by her mother. It turned out the mother had found a new job and would soon come back to take the child away. This should have been the thing Xiaoyu had looked forward to most, yet now she could not feel happy at all. She could not bear to leave the grandmother. She worried that after she left, if the grandmother became sick, no one would know. If she missed her, she would also be unable to express it. So she asked the grandmother to write the 2 sentences, "I am sick, and I miss you." That way, if something happened, the grandmother could write letters to her. But the aged grandmother could never learn. In the end, she came up with an idea. "Grandma, if it hurts a lot, then just send a letter with nothing written on it. Then I'll know it was sent by you, and I'll come running right away. Okay? Got it?" As she spoke, she could not help but cry. And hearing her grandchild's concern, the grandmother silently wiped away tears too. That night, while the grandmother slept deeply, Xiaoyu took out the sewing box and pre-threaded many needles for her, because this was the only thing she could help her with. The boy who once had no patience even to thread one needle was now using the clumsiest way to express the deepest love and longing. Then she took out watercolor pens and painted by the window the entire night. The next day, the mother came as promised to take the child away. She told Xiaoyu to say goodbye to the grandmother, but Xiaoyu pressed her lips tightly and said nothing. Only before getting into the car did she hand the prepared picture book to the grandmother. The grandmother knocked on the car window from outside. As she walked into the late years of her life, she had gained one more longing that crossed mountains and seas.